Hello everyone. Today we are starting our session with Leo Tolstoy's fascinating story Two Deer. I'm Shruti Manor, your narrator for this session. So let's dive right in.
In a corner of Europe, nestled beside the vast nations of France and Italy.
Once upon a time, there was a tiny little kingdom called Monaco in the borders of France and Italy. The kingdom was so small that even if the land was divided equally among its inhabitants, there would not be even an acre of land for each inhabitant. But even though it was so small, the toy kingdom had a real kinglet, and like any other king, he lives in palaces with courtiers, ministers, bishop generals, and an army of 60 men. But then, how did the king live? He generated money through taxes on tobacco, wine, spirits, poll tax. The number of people living in his kingdom were very small, so the taxes people paid from drinking, smoking are not adequate enough. Therefore, the king had to hit a new idea, and it came from gaming houses where people played roulette. Whether people won or whether people lost, the keeper used to give a huge percentage of the income to the king. Do you know why the keeper paid so much money to the prince? It was the only gaming house which was left untouched by the rulers in Europe. There were many gaming houses run by the German souvenirs, but they were forbidden some years ago as it did great harm to lot of people. Hartmannswald. Many a time it so happened that man would come, try his luck, then he would risk all he had and lose it. He would finally drown or shoot himself. So now, Prince of Monaco remained with monopoly, and whoever wants to gamble would go to Monaco, and the prince would gain a lot of money from this. So what's the twist of the play? In next part of the story, we see a moral conflict faced by the prince and his people. What? A murder! A murder was committed in Prince of Monaco domain. The people of Monaco were very peaceful and such a thing never happened to them. Now the story takes a serious turn. Monaco is a toy kingdom. They did not have guillotine for cutting head off or executioner to carry out execution. The ministers sent letter to the French government asking for machine and an expert to cut head of the criminal and the cost involved in it. 1 week later, they received a reply that they would lend machine and an expert as well, and it would cost 16,000 francs. The king thought, lot of money and waste to spend so much to behead a criminal. Is it worth it? They sent similar inquiry to Italy and they received machine expert including traveling costs at 12,000 francs. Though the prices quoted by the King of Italy was cheaper than the French government, still the price is too much high for a toy kingdom, right? Therefore, the ministers called for another council. The council asked the general to find a soldier who would be ready to cut off man's head. The members of the council believed that soldiers would be trained for this, but the soldiers denied as they were not trained to behead a criminal. The king and ministers later came to conclusion that the best thing to do was to alter death sentence to one of the imprisonment for life. It would enable the prince to sound mercier also, and also it would be a cheaper option, right? And then they tried to figure out a place in the palace which would serve like a prison. They placed a guard over him whose duty was to watch criminal and fetch food from palace kitchen. This way, they kept prisoner imprisoned for more than a year and it costed 600 francs. He thought a more cheaper way. Let the prisoner run away and be hanged. Wow, what a cheaper way, right? According to the plan, guard was dismissed. They all waited to see how the prisoner would act. So actually what happened was one day Kinglet was examining the account of income and expenditure and this new expenditure of 600 francs comes to his eye and that is when they plan for more cheaper way that let the prisoner run away and they dismiss the guy. But now let's see what happens. At dinner time, he comes out. He doesn't find his guard. He went to the prince's kitchen to fetch his own dinner. After collecting dinner, he returned to the prison, shut the door himself, and stayed there only, inside the prison. He did not run away. Now that their plan didn't work, they brought him to the Minister of Justice and suggested him to run away. What a kind of kingdom, right? Where they are telling the prisoner to run away so that they can save costs. Very weird. And for this, the prisoner tells that he has nowhere to go. His character is already accused. You people have already accused me, and I've also lost the habit of walking. So I am not going to run away. I'm going to be here only. That's what the prisoner tells. So the minister tells, okay, fine. I've decided to pay you 600 francs as pension. Now the prisoner thinks, okay, this is something interesting. On receiving this news, he told him that they must pay him regularly. Quite settling. Finally, the prisoner received 1/3 of his annuity in advance. He left the kingdom's domain and emigrated to another country. Just across the frontier, he bought a bit of land, started market gardening, and lived there comfortably. The author seems to appreciate courage and open-mindedness of Monaco, acknowledging their limitations and letting go the prisoner free on humanitarian ground. Too dear means either too expensive or of great value. It is you, readers, who will decide whether too dear refers to executing a criminal or saving a criminal. Pin it on to the comment box and let me know. Thank you. That's it for the session. Meet you all until the next session. Have a good day. Bye bye.